everyone, how are you? This is yours truly, Diabetic Cycling, coming at you once again. Thank you for spending your time with me today. As always, this channel is sponsored by my own damn wallet and brought to you by engagement from you, like subscribing to my channel, leaving comment down below, and ultimately liking this video. As always, I discuss and share with you my thoughts and opinions on things that I actually buy with my own money. So I have no obligations, such as I'm not chasing any advertising money so that I could keep my dying magazine business afloat, or I'm not a bike shop to sell you anything. I don't have any ulterior motive as such. I'm not a douchey social media influencer either. All right, so why did I ultimately end up going with this handlebar? Obviously, the main reason of that came down to the cost, simply. And those of you who subscribe to my channel and watched my videos in the past, you guys all know that. You guys should be familiar with that. I personally prefer integrated cockpit, not for the same reasons other people do, and then also aero one at that. So the reason why I prefer the integrated handlebar is so that I don't have to worry about my handlebar sitting properly positioned, either not tilting up, not tilting down, as well as where it is in relation to the stem. So I have I'm not very good at getting all that dialed in. So if I buy an integrated handlebar, I don't have to worry about any of that. It only goes one way, right? So I love that part about the integrated handlebar, and I also like the aero ones because I find those give me more surface, more top surface area for my hands to rest on, especially for those climbing applications. Now, as some of you may have already watched, I recently acquired a Linsky titanium frame, which I will do a thorough review, my style, in coming weeks. But today I'm focusing on the handlebar for that bike. So I've acquired this integrated handlebar, and it's a Chinese brand, as most of you would already know. So obviously you get one from China for value proposition. For instance, Data alla Nera Italian, those things are well above $600, actually towards the higher end of $600. And then Vision Metron, that I dearly love, have that integrated handlebar currently on my Cervelo Soloist, which by the way, if you haven't watched my review of that bike, I'll link it right here. So the Vision Metron integrated handlebar, I've had it on my DeRosa Pininfarina SK. And then once I sold that bike, the handlebar was taken out of there, and then it went to my giant TCR, which I took to Mauna Loa last year, which again, if you haven't watched my epic journey to Mauna Loa, taking that mountain down, I'll also leave a link right here. So once I sold the giant TCR, then I held the handlebar, then I moved it onto my Cervelo Soloist. So it's been serving me great. I love that handlebar. But that Vision Metron also it's right about $650. And then, those look almost cheap somehow when you look at something like the Pinarello's most Ultra Talon handlebar, which is what Team Ineos use, as well as I have one on my Pinarello Prince, and that thing comes in at whopping $1,000. So in comparison, the Farsports F1s seems pretty cheap at $399. So it's about 1/2 or even 1/3 of all these big name brand offerings. So question must be answered. Is it half as good, or is it only 1/3 good? Let's find out. Okay, so I did not film the box. I didn't do any unboxing of that because it's just a handlebar. So I don't have any B-roll to show you how the box came, but the product was packaged extremely well, quality outside box, and came in pretty quickly once the order went in. So that all is good. And Farsports also include a bunch of spacers at various stack height that you want to get to, and these are the ones that you don't need to take the cockpit off the steer tube, because they, you know, half of the piece goes in this way, the other half goes in this way, and they just click on. But they are plastic affair, however. The bar itself is obviously, you know, light. It's all carbon affair. Now also, again, I did not weigh the handlebar when it came. I'm really not into weighing different components of the bike or even the whole bike. The only time when I weigh things is because I want to share with you guys the hard numbers. So I did not weigh the handlebar, so I don't know how much, you know, how much it weighs, but it's a dang light. It's a fairly light handlebar. Again, all carbon affair. And the one that I'm using is a 38 centimeter wide, and it does not flare out on the bottom, so it's a 38 throughout at the hoods and at the drops. All right, so talking about handlebar, things, my opinions and thoughts that I'm about to share with you may not necessarily translate to how you feel, since you and I have different preferences. We look for different things perhaps. So your mileage may vary, so keep that in mind. Okay, so I will start with the pros, and the first thing that I am going to tell you that is that the bar has a very clean aesthetics, you know, bordering on minimalist look, and the stem has a silver stripe with Farsports logo down on the top. It's almost like a skunk stripe that goes through the stem all the way at, you know, full length of the stem all the way to the bar. Looks very clean. Nothing to complain about there. Okay, and the second positive thing, so when I needed to, you know, work with a handlebar, no one had anything in stock in terms of a 38 centimeter wide. So that's why I looked to this brand, and they have a variety of sizes available. So you know, whether you want something long and yet at the same time something narrow, or the other way around, however you want to have your handlebar, a variety of sizes are available. As well as they have maybe two dozen or so specific bike models where this handlebar would fit onto, and they will provide the adapter that would make the integration look very seamless, so that you don't have a weird looking part sticking out or something missing to of that nature. And then those who prefer compact reach as well as compact drops, you will find this handlebar fit the bill just right. And then the I guess I would call it lower half of this handlebar is shaped extremely well. So directly under where you would have the hoods installed, so you would have the bar actually is shaped where it's like an oblong shape where you grab, and it's very thin in that area. So when you're holding, and it's like a sprint position, it just feels so good in the hands, and then it has this graceful curvature that rounds out to a perfect circle at the drops, leading over to where the bar end caps would go. And then something odd to mention, but I think it's a good thing to point out. Farsports includes a head unit mount, which is appreciated, because I'll tell you why. For instance, like when I bought my Orbea, I had to buy the head unit mount from Orbea. Here's the thing, it's $24 for it, which is ridiculous, by the way. But then to get it shipped from here, because Orbea is in Spain, it costs like $49 to get that thing shipped. So that is a horrible Orbea. And then who else? And Pinarello obviously doesn't give you a head unit mount, even if the handlebar costs $1,000. So that's also negative. And then most recently, my Ribble Ultra, you also have to buy the head unit mount yourself. And then here's the thing, I actually bought one from K-Edge, which actually fit very well to my Ribble Ultra handlebar. But not only it's cheaper, it's lighter. So, given all things considered, with the proprietary design of the handlebar, Farsports does include a head unit mount, which I appreciate that a lot, because that's whatever dollars that I could keep in my pocket. All right, so then I am going to talk about negative. I don't have a whole lot of negatives that I want to discuss, but it's one thing that actually bothers me a bit, so I am going to share this with you. The way the bar is shaped, so basically as it comes out of the stem, it starts to go, and it forms the top, and then as it curves into where the hoods would be mounted, that area is extremely thin. So the tubing is very, very thin, and then it flares back out so the hoods can be installed with the standard clamp sizing and everything else. But the reason why that bothers me is, one, it is a very high stress area as you're riding there. Now, I'm not one to put a enormous amount of force in that area, or torque is going side to side as I'm sprinting or anything. I'm pretty weak in terms of something like that. I would rather climb than sprint, if you catch my drift. So that area being so thin actually does make me wonder if there's gonna be an integrity problem in terms of a structural integrity. And then because of that area is so thin, and sometimes myself included, some may rest their hands in that area and there's just not enough to hold onto. And I'll roll B-roll here where I compare side by side between the Farsports handlebar versus, for instance, my Pinarello Prince that has the most ultra talon handlebar. So it is a lot thinner in that area, which I don't really care for. And since they had to make the bar shaped as so, where it will taper off to the area there, then it flares out to the hoods. So what they did, because as it is tapering off, basically there's not enough now to hold on to in the tops. So that could be an issue for some. I find it occasionally bothering me, and I wouldn't say the tubing is so thin where it will dig into your palms if you're right on there, but I just wish there was a little bit more there. So obviously such thing will never happen, but if they ever ask me to redesign the bar, what I would do is I would probably have much more surface area at the top that would go to that weak point area, what appears to be weak. I'm not saying it is weak, it just appears weak because it's so dang narrow and thin. I would build a little bit more top area so that there's a little bit more meat and surface area right there, then transitions into where the hoods would be mounted, and I think that would really make it great. Also, right now the bar basically is shaped where it comes out this way. Rather, I would have it from the stem, have it go like so, as it how would I put this? So the hoods area would be more forward than as the bar is shaped, because if you look at the top down, bar is currently almost like this. I'm exaggerating that a little bit, but I much more prefer like that, as in my Ribble Ultra handlebar as well as my Vision Metron handlebar. All right, so to conclude this review episode, so in the sea of integrated handlebars, there's a lot of offerings from a lot of different manufacturers, including the $70 things from AliExpress or even Amazon from brand names that you've never heard of. I'm not trying to sound like an elitist asshole. I'm not discriminating anything, but cockpit isn't something that I want to mess with. I want to have trust, I want to have integrity there, because I've seen Matthew Vanderpool break his handlebar. Of course, I don't generate that kind of power, so I don't have to ever worry about it. And that's from Canyon. And also many years back, Georgia Hincapie also broke his handlebar, and he just tumbled into some ditch during Paris-Roubaix event. So it's it's nothing that I want any part of. So I'm never gonna entertain anything from, you know, $70 integrated cockpit from AliExpress or Amazon. And yet at the same time, I'm looking for value, and I think Farsports actually has a pretty good product. Value proposition is pretty well. It's surprisingly a lot better than I thought it would be. And Farsports is one of the names that are direct to consumer from China, such as WinSpace, Yoleo, and who am I missing here? You know who I'm talking about. I mean, there are a lot of YouTube channels that deal with the China brands, and those guys. Now, Farsports does not have a frame. I don't think they sell, so they have these components as well as wheels. But this particular cockpit, I'm mostly okay with, other than the things that I mentioned. I think in the long term, I probably will end up replacing it because I just don't like how narrow it is there, the part that I keep pointing to. So that's something I may entertain later on down the road. But generally, if that doesn't bother you and you happen to prefer thinner tubing, thinner top section, or you just happen to like thinner bar, then so again, I don't know if I would outright recommend it 100%, but if the things that I mentioned don't bother you, then this will be a great pick, and certainly is a great value for the money. All right, I've been Diabetic Cycling, and you've been awesome. Thank you for sticking around. Until next time, you guys keep the rubber side down. Be safe out on the road. I'll see you again in the next episode. Take care. DC out.